What are dungeons for? To be explored, of course. The Fame and Fortune board game allows 1 to 7 players to seek out loot and danger in this cooperative dungeon crawler. One of you can even play as the monsters versus all the other players, or let the dice run the show so everyone can play. Ready to dive into the darkness for Fame and Fortune? I talked to the creator. That interview starts now. Hey Brian, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Mike?
Very good. Thanks for coming on. You've created a game. Why don't you tell us about that game?
Sure. So, Fame and Fortune is a 1 to 7 player fantasy skirmish game where you and a bunch of your friends form little adventuring parties and you venture into the dungeon to try to take down this legion of monsters before they complete their resurrection ritual of their big bad monster master. And it's got really fun elements to it. I've been working on it for about 2 years now, and it's been a blast. There's definitely been some challenges along the way, but every one of them has been good for the campaign and good for the group. The game's been kind of like a passion project for me, and I never knew I wanted to design games until I was doing it. Now it's all I wanted.
I hear that a lot, actually. I hear that a lot from people who are like, I never thought I could design a game before. So that process, what inspired you?
My friends and I just wanted to have a board game group. We wanted to design games ourselves. Started off with a little game about ants, and it developed into, well, why don't we try this fantasy skirmish game thing that I have an idea for? And that kind of just snowballed into what it is today. It's just a group of high school friends that wanted to make something together.
That's great. I love it. It's games like this, especially indie creations, have become very, very popular, and there are a million games out there. And for anybody watching, if you have a desire for a game, I guarantee you can find it. So this is a skirmish game. It is 1 to 7 players. One of those players potentially being basically the monsters. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. It's probably the most fun to have one person gang up on all their friends, or I guess everyone's friends gang up on one person. But if you all want to work together cooperatively, that monster master and all his little minions can be an AI, which is pretty simple to use.
So it's just going to be an app on your phone that you can use, or your tablet?
No, it actually just kind of boils down to 6-sided dice.
Oh.
And anytime there are 6 colors in the game. So think of like red, yellow, blue, green, purple, go around the color sphere. Basically, each monster in the game has a color associated with it, and that monster is only allowed to attack the player to which its color belongs.
Oh, wow.
So if you're playing with a red and an orange player, you have a red and orange monster. Those monsters go after those parties in particular. And since you have 3 people on your adventuring team, you roll a d6, and if it's a 1, 2, or a 3, that monster goes after the character that's in the 1, 2, or 3 slot. And then it's roll a 4, 5, or 6, then it attacks you but with more damage. So that kind of makes up for the element that it's an AI and it can be a little less intense than a real person playing. So that extra damage kind of amps that back up. So it's really simple. When a monster's activating, you just roll a die, and it goes after who it goes after. So anytime anyone would have to make a decision off an ability or where it's going to go exactly, the player that it's attacking makes that choice. So
that's kind of like an automa. And so if you're obviously you can play this as a single player as well.
Yep. Solo mode is not easy, but it is possible to do. I call him the Atana Monster Master. That's what that game is.
Yeah, that's probably appropriate. So this is kickstarting right now, and I noticed that one of the options to have some miniatures.
Yeah, the miniatures are really cool. We had Billy Hooper design them. I have some with you right now. This is the Dragon King. We have 7 monsters in the base game, and then there's one that comes with each expansion, which we're really excited about. They have a base option where the character tokens are just kind of flat. And so if you're on a budget and you need to do something a little simpler, you can do that. You don't have to have the full mini. You can just have the flat character art on the token. But the minis are a great upgrade because it kind of just feels like you're playing like elevated wizard's chess, All the monsters are moving around. It's really cool. And our stretch goal at the moment is to have every $1,000 we get over our campaign goal, we're trying to we're going to have the artist design another one of the characters from the base game. There's like 24 characters.
Oh, wow.
So the idea is at the end of the campaign, if all the stretch goals, you can basically have a 3D printed part for every single piece. And each character in the dungeon would be like a little HS piece.
That's awesome. Cool. That is really, really cool. So when you think about games, what are your favorite types of games to play?
Well, I grew up on games like
Is
Catan
it
and Sorry and Trouble. Back in the day, things were a little
the
simpler.
thing?
And only about maybe like 3, 4 years ago that I started developing that hunger to try more intense games. I really like games. Like, I guess it started with Catan, but I've moved towards games like this is a new one called Forges of Ravenshire. Resource gathering games have become like a really big thing to me. So making sure that I always have a stockpile of those. I like Euro games mostly, games where everyone's kind of doing their own thing, but they're against each other. There's not a lot of take that elements. But I also like Risk, where it's just 1v1 against each other and everyone's just rolling dice, battling it out.
Sure.
So it's kind of a wide variety. But the games that my company creates are more focused on, I guess, like 1 to 7 players, probably the most we're ever going to get to.
Mm,
But uh, games that 3 or 4 people, fantasy based games is where kind of niche that I'm going for.
absolutely. Yeah, those are a lot of fun. And there are games like Descent and some others that have similar mechanics. I always love those. But I've always been the forever DM, so it's nice sometimes being the DM for a board game too, because you get to be
Yeah,
actually devious.
I wanted to make a game that when you couldn't get the whole D&D group together, you break this out and you guys have a blast. Do a little one session. Everybody fights it out. They get all that pent up whatever out of their system, and then eventually the group will meet up again. They'll play D&D.
Right, right.
This is
This is for when Joe and Bob can't join. You sit down with the rest of
which
the
is a lot.
yeah, yeah. I agree with you. Yeah, I mean there are moments I'm sure in everybody's tabletop role playing game where somebody wants to shank somebody else. Uh, so I mean it happens, right?
The game did used to be back in the day. It's actually just all PvP. All 7 players were going at it against each other, and while that was good and fun, and that game mode still exists as one of the variants you can play, people just really like the co-op element of kind of taking down one force together. Kind of the impetus for the game that I wanted to start with was that there's a lot of games where everyone gets one hero and they level them up and they get gear and they get better and they go through the dungeon. And I wanted to have each person have their own party of people, which was important to me. So each player has their own leader and a couple adventurers that they can kind of throw to the fray. And characters will die, that's a guaranteed. But you don't get too attached to them. You just buy another one from the tavern and send it back into the fray.
Wow. Yeah, a little harsh, but I guess that's reality. Well, I mean fantasy reality, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Well, they don't die. They get defeated in the game. Emotionally,
There
they
you
go to rest
go.
time.
Yes, they're emotional puddles and cannot possibly adventure any further. Right.
Yes.
So this is kickstarting right now. You're doing fine work. I really enjoyed the game. I've already kickstarted it myself, but you have been kind enough to offer to donate a copy of the game to the channel when you were funded for one of our loyal and subscribed viewers. So if anyone who is watching is interested in this game, I will have links to the Kickstarter down below, and you may get a copy of this game for yourself if you just throw some comments down below. Say hello, tell Brian his hair looks fantastic. Or how
It's a good
yeah,
game.
it is. Well, look, hey, I have the best day ever. I say I've never actually lost any hair, it's just migrated to my ears and nose. So that's what happens when you get older. Anyway, I have had an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I wish you the best of luck. And again, folks, I'll have links to everything down below, so that way you can check the game out for yourself. And again, you may end up getting a free copy for yourself. So thank you for being on. I appreciate it, and best of luck.
Thanks, you appreciate it.